The fluorescent lights hummed faintly above the classroom, a sound so ordinary it usually disappeared into the background. But tonight, as Emily stood clutching her science fair board, the buzz felt sharp, almost mocking. Her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, her knuckles white against the cardboard edges. She had spent months on this project, months of staying up late, of sketching calculations in the margins of her notebooks, of tinkering at the dining table while her mother worked another shift. Now it was here, the big reveal. Her board displayed a concept she believed in with all her heart, a prototype for a new kind of fuel cell that could recycle solar energy more efficiently. It was bold, it was untested, and it was unlike anything her classmates had brought. And that was exactly the problem. Mr. Lawson, her science teacher, leaned in, squinting at the board. He tapped one of her hand-drawn diagrams with a pencil. Then he chuckled. "Emily," he said, his tone flat but laced with ridicule, "this is a waste of time. You should have picked something more realistic. Maybe next year you'll learn the difference between science fiction and science." The classroom erupted in laughter. Emily felt her stomach drop. Her cheeks flushed red as heat burned her ears. She wanted to defend herself, to say, "But this isn't science fiction. It's possible. I've run the numbers. I've tested the prototype." But her throat closed. Her voice stayed trapped inside. She lowered her eyes, nodded faintly, and carried her board to the corner, trying to disappear. The laughter still echoed. Her dreams suddenly felt smaller. Emily had never been like the other kids. While her classmates texted late into the night or played video games, Emily's bedroom glowed with the light of a desk lamp. She collected scraps of wire and broken gadgets from thrift stores, piecing them together like puzzles. Her notebooks were filled with half-formed inventions, chemical equations, and energy models she barely understood at first, but learned by teaching herself through library books and free online lectures. Her father had been her first inspiration. Before he died, he worked as a mechanic and a part-time tinkerer. He used to call her into the garage and say, "Here, hold the flashlight while I fix this." But really, he was teaching her about patience, about curiosity, about daring to ask, what if, on warm summer nights, they'd sit outside and look at the stars. "Do you know what those are, Em?" He'd ask. "They're suns," she'd say proudly. He'd nod. "Billions of suns. Energy everywhere. And maybe one day, someone like you will figure out how to use it better than we do now." Those words stayed with her long after he was gone. So when the school announced a science fair, Emily knew exactly what she wanted to do. Her mother worried. "Isn't it too complicated, honey? What if no one understands?" Emily had smiled. Dad said small minds laugh at big ideas. "I just want to try." The night of the science fair, the cafeteria was crowded with poster boards and folding tables. Kids in bright clothes clustered around projects on soda acidity, paper clip magnets, and baking soda volcanoes. Parents snapped pictures, judges walked slowly from table to table, and the air buzzed with chatter. Emily set up her project carefully. Her hands shook as she placed the small fuel cell prototype on the table, its wires neatly tucked. When the judges arrived, they glanced at her board for only a moment before moving on. They didn't ask questions. They didn't lean closer. They smiled politely and left. Emily forced herself to stand tall, but her chest felt hollow. When the ribbons were handed out, she clapped politely as first place went to a boy who had measured sugar content in sodas. Second place went to a girl who had tested soil types for plant growth. Third place went to a magnet and paperclip experiment. Emily's name wasn't called. She carried her project home that night, the board bumping awkwardly against her hip, her breath forming white clouds in the cold. She whispered into the night, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong." At home, her mother found her slumped at the kitchen table. "Emily, they laughed at me, Mom. Mr. Lawson said it wasn't realistic. The judges didn't even care. I wasted my time." Her mother sat across from her, taking her hands. "Emily, listen to me. Do you know how many times people laughed at the Wright brothers before they flew? Or at Edison before the light bulb worked? Small minds laugh at big ideas because they can't see what you see. But you can't let their blindness steal your sight." Emily looked down at her board. The numbers, the diagrams, the little prototype. Suddenly it all felt fragile. But in her mother's eyes, she saw something steady. Try again, her mother urged. Send it somewhere else. Give it another chance. 2 weeks later, Emily reluctantly submitted her abstract to a regional STEM competition. She didn't expect to hear back. She clicked submit and whispered to herself, "This is the last time. No more humiliation." But then, days later, an email arrived. "Congratulations. Your project has been selected for the Regional Young Innovators Showcase in Houston." Emily blinked at the screen, convinced she was imagining it. She read it again, and again. Her mother rushed in when she heard the scream. Emily spun around, holding her phone out with trembling hands. "Mom, they picked me." Her mother hugged her tightly, tears filling her eyes. "I told you, they saw what I see." The Houston showcase was nothing like her school science fair. The hall was massive, filled with projects that looked like they belonged in university labs. Students wore lab coats, carried laptops, and spoke confidently about robotics, biotechnology, and astrophysics. Emily set up her project in silence, her heart hammering. She felt small among giants. But when the judges came to her table, something happened. They didn't laugh. They didn't walk past. They leaned in. "How did you calculate this efficiency rate?" One asked. "Did you build this prototype yourself?" Another added. Emily answered nervously at first, but as she explained, she saw their expressions change. They were listening. They were impressed. By the end of the day, she didn't know what to expect. She sat in the back of the auditorium, chewing her nails, whispering, "Don't hope. Just don't hope." But then they called her name. First place. Her legs nearly gave out as she walked the stage. The medal around her neck felt heavier than gold. And the prize wasn't just a medal. It was an invitation to the National Youth Science Symposium, sponsored by NASA. At the symposium, Emily was awestruck. The venue was enormous. Banners of planets and rockets hanging from the ceiling. Scientists in press suits mingled with students carrying projects that looked like science fiction. Emily's little prototype suddenly looked humble. She swallowed hard as she set it up, her hands trembling. Then a woman stopped at her table, a woman with a NASA badge. She studied Emily's diagrams carefully, her brow furrowing. "Did you design this efficiency model yourself?" Emily nodded timidly. The woman smiled. "Do you realize you've stumbled onto something we've been working on? Your design could be revolutionary." Emily gasped. "You're serious?" The woman extended her hand. "I'm Dr. Ramirez. I'd like you to present this to our engineering panel." The next day, Emily stood before a room of NASA engineers. Her knees shook, her hands trembled, but when she began to speak, her voice grew steady. She explained her design, her equations, her prototype. She answered questions, defended her ideas, and for the first time, she felt her father's words alive inside her. "Don't be afraid of ideas bigger than you." When she finished, the room was silent. Then applause erupted. One engineer leaned to another and said, "She has the mind of a scientist." Emily's heart soared. Back home, the local paper ran the headline, "Local Teen Impresses NASA." Her classmates stared as she walked the halls, some with awe, some with guilt. And Mr. Lawson? He couldn't avoid her forever. One day, after class, he stopped her. "I underestimated you," he admitted. "You proved me wrong." Emily looked at him calmly. "No, I proved myself right." Months later, a letter arrived. Emily unfolded it, her eyes widening as she read. "You are invited to join our NASA Young Innovators Summer Program." She sat on her bed, tears spilling down her face. "Dad," she whispered, "we did it." Her mother hugged her, whispering, "He'd be so proud." So when someone scoffs at your dreams, remember Emily's story. Remember the girl who was mocked by her teacher, dismissed by judges, laughed at by classmates, until NASA called her name. People will always doubt what they don't understand, but their doubt is not your destiny. What matters is whether you keep building, keep believing, and keep standing by the vision only you can see. So the next time someone tells you your dream is unrealistic, don't shrink, don't argue, keep working. Let your success be the answer. Because when the world finally calls your name, you'll be ready. And when they ask, "How did you do it?" you'll smile and say, "Because I never stopped believing."